Alright, we're live. Got
Good deal.
sweet. Alright, welcome back to the Austin&Austin Show for episode 8. We're not going to have Dakota on this time. He wasn't able to make it this time around, so it's just going to be Austin and Austin today. We got some NBA stuff to go over, a couple NFL things, not much, and then some MMA to catch up on. Alright, man. Let's get into it. NBA. Let's do this. All right, so first things first, Golden State swept the Blazers. What do you think about that? What do you think about the series in whole?
I think I has a thing. If you're not a Wolves fan, it's like, oh well, this sucks, but it's expected. I hate it, but it's expected. Warriors going through the last one, dude. Okay, so with this, so let me tell you what Stephen A. said about this. I was listening to some First Take last night, okay, and they were talking about which is better. Warriors going to 5 straight finals, or LeBron going to like 7 or 8 straight finals. Okay.
8 straight, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Stephen A. said the Warriors, and that other dude on the show, he was like, absolutely not. And basically, they just did the rundown of LeBron's career, and I mean, it kind of makes sense. I mean, you just have one person versus entire team, but that person and stuff, and then talk about when he was in Cleveland and Kyrie got hurt in the playoffs, you know, they still went to the finals. So, but anyway, Warriors, that playing the Blazers, that didn't say much.
Well, yeah. So, I'll take away a couple of things from this series. One, that Steph Curry has shown that he might be the most important player on the Warriors in Durant's absence. He's obviously the most important besides Durant. But so this is an interesting question because, you know, obviously the Warriors have shown that they don't really need Kevin Durant, which tells me his 2 rings might not mean what people maybe think what they mean. So do you believe that this sweeping of the Blazers and how the Warriors look in general, does that tarnish Durant's legacy?
I don't think it tarnishes it. And people just kind of think about that and put them down because it would be like you didn't really, you know, do anything to earn it, but he did. I mean, he's part of the team. He plays good. Even if he goes to super team or something like that. But I mean, the Warriors, even without Kevin Durant, even with him on another team, they're still going to do good. They're still going to go to the finals or, you know, to the playoffs. I mean, they did it, you know, 5 years in a row now, and Kevin Durant's just been there here and last year. So, you know, I don't know. I don't think it'll tarnish anything, but I mean, you know, there's probably some people that will look back on it and be like, oh yeah, you know what, it did, but I don't think it did.
So here's how I see it. I believe ultimately right now it tarnishes his legacy because people are saying, well, look, the Warriors don't need you. They're sweeping the Western Conference Finals without Durant. He hasn't been there the whole series. So as of right now, it tarnishes it. But I think the time thing is an interesting topic because as time passes, people will forget about that. Like they'll just look back because think about our kids. They won't be looking into, oh, look, they swept the Blazers in the Western Conference Finals in 2019, so Durant's rings don't mean anything. They'll just be looking at Durant's rings. That's really all they'll look at. So I think over time, his legacy won't be tarnished. He'll still go down as one of the greatest scorers to ever live, maybe the greatest scorer all around to ever live, because there's never been someone more versatile on the basketball court than Kevin Durant is. But Right now, I think it does tarnish it. Chris Broussard, he's a reporter slash analyst for Fox Sports. He says this is Kevin Durant's worst nightmare, meaning that like him going down with injury and then the Warriors looking better without him, which they do look better. They're winning by more points. Before he was hurt, they won by a margin of 4 points a game. Now that he's hurt, they're winning by a margin of over 10 points a game. So they clearly look better without him. So Chris Broussard says this is Kevin Durant's worst nightmare pertaining to this situation that he's in, because obviously there's worse things that can happen. But this triggered Kevin Durant to actually respond to him on Twitter. I don't know if you knew this, but he actually responded to Chris Broussard on Twitter saying how, oh, that seems like a bit of an exaggeration. How is that my worst nightmare? You know, blah, blah, blah. I don't know the tweet exactly, but he's basically saying, I'm pretty sure there's worse things that can happen. Durant to Chris Broussard. And I'm just thinking, I'm like, well, obviously Kevin Durant's still as sensitive as he always has been. He's still, you know, I mean, there's something about Kevin Durant that he just can't take any sort of criticism at all, which is really not even Durant criticism. It's really just, hey, look, Chris is simply observing the situation like, hey, Kevin Durant's out and the Warriors look better. That probably makes him feel like his 2 rings are meaningless, which a lot of fans feel that way. A lot of fans feel that Kevin Durant's 2 rings are meaningless. So I'd have to agree to a certain extent because, like, as we talked about last podcast, Kevin Durant, I guarantee part of him wants to see the Warriors lose without him. Part of him. Now, like you made a good point in the last podcast, well, he's still part of the team. He still wants to see the team success. But I mean, as a human, you have to sit back and wonder, well, yes, he wants to see the team succeed, but he also wants to feel needed. He wants to feel like he was the – go ahead.
Listen, okay, I'm going to take the exact same situation, but put it in football terms. It's called the Eagles and Carson Wentz stepping up, okay?
Exactly.
Or Nick Foles stepping up and Carson Wentz out. Carson Wentz up now. So I don't think Kevin Durant will have a starting job in Warriors. He might. It just depends on where he wants to go. Wherever he wants to go, he's going to get a starting job. But they still won those playoff games with him. That's the thing. I mean, I wouldn't look at the points, but it's kind of almost the same situation in Philadelphia, except Ball Gay hurt. Someone stepped up in the Super Bowl for stepping up in the finals. When they weren't doing as good when Kevin Durant was in. So, I mean, they still getting wins, but I don't will tarnish anything right now or anything like that. But I mean, I don't think it's his worst nightmare, and I think he's still rooting for the team because I mean, Carson Wentz was on the sidelines. He ain't going to be like, oh,
let me ask you this question now.
Got this backup. I don't think they'll win.
Let me ask you this question. Do you think there's any resentment from Carson Wentz to Nick Foles now that – because 2 years in a row, Carson goes down at the end of the year and they have playoff success. I mean, if it weren't for Alshon Jeffrey's drop in the Saints game, the Eagles could have went, to another Super Bowl. So my question to you is, do you think there's any part of Carson Wentz at all that was rooting against Foles? Because I think there is. I think there's a part of him. Really? You don't think there's any at all? There's no resentment at all?
Absolutely not. Why are you going to do that? You play on the team. Okay, so and especially at the quarterback position, how come you're going to get hurt, tear your ACL or something, or where you're out the rest of the game and you got to watch your team play for a playoff chance, for next playoff game to go to the Super Bowl? How are you going to root against them? So even if you know your injury, even if you don't know your injury, like how are you going to do that?
I don't know, man. I think
you might be able to come in the next game. You might be able, you might automatically already know that you're out. Well, you want to see that team go far. I think might be a little bit at the end of all that, where they're thinking, oh snap, well, he won these games, maybe I'm going to get cut, or maybe I'm going to get the backup position or whatever. Well, that wasn't the case for the Eagles, but I think that's something that plays afterwards. I think during all that, Carson Wentz is talking to Nick Foles and be like, "Hey, this is what I do. Um, you know, this is what I see out there. Watch for that." Blah blah blah. I don't think they're even worrying about that at that point. So
Okay.
same thing with Warriors. I mean, these are series games. He might be thinking about all the stuff that he could be helping the team, but I don't think he's like, oh, you know what? I hope they lose. I mean, I like that.
All right. All right. All right.
And nobody's gonna admit that.
Yeah, of course. No, like Durant will never sit back and say, "Hey, I was actually cheering for you guys to lose." But I think there is something to be said about how he's acted. Like he's gotten sensitive about Chris Broussard saying that. He's not outwardly said, "Listen, I'm not cheering against the team." And I mean, obviously, he doesn't need to say that. But what is interesting is that he has not been on the sideline with them. So, I mean, I don't know. Maybe there's something there. Maybe there's not. But I think it tarnishes it a little bit. I mean, you can't say that the Warriors wouldn't have been the heavy favorites in Durant's 2 finals wins without Durant. I think they would have been the favorites. I think they probably would have won both. So, who knows? I think it's an interesting discussion. But I think I think we'll have to agree on this. Does this enhance Steph Curry's legacy? And I'll go first on this. I think it does because, I mean, you look at the Warriors right now, and Curry has shown that he is clearly still the best shooter in the world, and he's shown maybe he's the best scorer in the playoffs right now in this series. Dude, his averages for this last series? He averaged 37 points, 7 assists, and 8 rebounds a game. Or maybe it was 9 assists. That is unreal. He's averaging, I don't even know how he gets 8 rebounds a game, probably because all the long rebounds with the threes. But
Yeah.
I mean, that's just crazy. Like those numbers are unbelievable for Steph. It's shown that he's still a great distributor. He's still obviously a great scorer, obviously. So I think Steph's legacy has been enhanced. But it's an interesting discussion because it's like, well, at this point, do you think Steph is going down as an all-time great? I mean, his teammate says, Andre Iguodala over the weekend says he's number 2 all-time to Michael Jordan. Steph Curry is number 2 all-time to Michael Jordan. I think that's a stretch. But I think – what's that?
That's what he says. I think it's a stretch too.
Yeah, I think it's a stretch. In my opinion, we need to start talking about if he's the greatest point guard of all time because, I mean, he's definitely moving up the ranks as far as point guards are concerned. There's no question about that. He might be number 2 behind Magic Johnson. After this year, he'll have 4 rings. I mean, 4 rings, that's a lot of rings for Steph. And, I mean, he could have more, man. I think Colin Cowherd actually had a good point yesterday, shockingly enough. He said that the Warriors are probably still going to be the favorites in the West once KD leaves. I think he's right. If they re-sign Draymond, if they re-sign Clay, and Steph's already under contract, then, I think they will be the favorites next year going forward. So, what do you think about that? What do you think? Do you think Curry's legacy has been enhanced since KD's been out?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's all you hear is his stats during each game. And like you said, averaging 37
Yes.
points. That's pretty good. So, I mean, I think it has. I mean, he stepped up without Kevin Durant. It's allowed him to get more buckets, play like the old stuff. So, I think it for sure has enhanced all that.
I think so too. So this is something that kind of was debated a little bit. I think Stephen A. may have debated it. So do you think the Warriors team that we're seeing right now, the 5 straight finals, probably going to win 4 out of 5, do you think they're the greatest team of all time?
Dude, I don't know, man. I don't know. I think it's always hard to do something like that or to say something like that when it's like happening right now. It's hard to take in considering them and the past teams of, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s, and all that, and compare them to all those, just because it's happening now. I think if they stop this year, stop being this good this year, didn't make it any finals playoffs in the next 10 years, maybe we could look back on it and be like, oh well, they were one of them, but they weren't the best, or maybe they were, blah blah blah. But I think right now, it's kind of hard to tell unless you're a Warriors fan. Of course, you're going to say yeah, but it's like would you say the Patriots are the best team ever, but then you look back at the other teams in the previous, so it's kind of like back and forth. But I don't think they're the best. I think we could revisit that in episode 2000 or something like that.
So I think it's close for sure. So the debate is between them and Jordan's Bulls. The Warriors are the first team since the 1966 Boston Celtics to go to 5 straight finals, which is kind of insane. And I'll just go ahead and say it. I think they are the greatest team ever. I think they would have beaten the Celtics back in the day, and they would have definitely beaten – well, it depends on the rules, because you make a good point. Because the rules change air to air, right? Because a lot of people talk about how physical the 90s were and how there wasn't even a three-point shot back in the 60s. So the Warriors clearly would have been at a disadvantage without the three-point shot in the 60s. But I'll say this, if under modern rules, they definitely would have won. And I still think under the 90s rules, the Warriors would have beat the Bulls. Because people have, like, Michael Jordan on this pedestal that he was just the ultimate competitor, the ultimate winner, couldn't have been beaten. And that's all true. I'm not saying that's not true. But the sheer firepower of this team, Kevin Durant, Klay Thompson, Steph Curry, I mean, the Bulls aren't going to have a lot to defend that. I mean, they have Scottie Pippen and Michael Jordan, two of the greatest defenders of all time. But, I mean, they just have so much firepower in the way they cut, the way they set screens. I think the Warriors would actually beat them. So I do think they're the greatest team of all time. Obviously, we're not fans of the Warriors, but I would have to say yes. I think they could have beat anybody from any air under. I mean, you have to have the 3-point shot. It would be hard for them to play back in the 60s when there's no 3-shot. So yeah, I think it's an interesting discussion though, because like you said, it's hard to debate that kind of stuff because the game changes so much from air to air. So yeah, I mean, I agree with you there, but if I had to say it, I would say Warriors are the best. So yeah, next up we have the Blazers are going to extend Damian Lillard, and I'm wondering, is he worth the 191 reported deal? You don't think he is?
Absolutely not. No, absolutely not. And this is the thing. They're trying to get to the playoffs next year. Good luck trying to get to the finals. They might make it to the playoffs next year, if it's the same team. But here's the thing: there's other teams that's going to make changes. That'll put them playoff predictions and stuff like that. But the Blazers, the only thing that they're changing is his contract, extending that. They might lose some players because of that. They ain't getting any new players or good players because of that. And that's all what every single comment said, except for one. And that one guy, he's sad. Okay, he don't know what he's talking about. But I mean, they're championship. I mean, if he wants money over rings, that's fine. You can still get money in rings, but I mean, whatever. That happened so quick though. Like there wasn't even, they're in talks of it. No, it just came out, boom, extended. But I think it's a joke. Yeah,
listen. I think you have to put it in context because the Blazers are not a big market, right? It's Portland. Nobody wants to go live in Portland. And Damian Lillard is a top point guard in the league, but his ability to win in the playoffs has to be questioned after this terrible series he had. Now, in his defense, he was hurt. I mean, he had separated ribs or something. He had a rib injury from where someone fell on him in Game 2. So you have to put that into context. But I think if you're the Blazers and you know there's not free agents coming to Portland, I think you have to pay Damian Lillard that kind of money. Just for the simple fact that there's no other free agents coming to Portland. Like no one wants to come play there. There's no reports of Kevin Durant or Kawhi Leonard, Kemba Walker. I mean, the list goes on and on. There's no reported free agents wanting to go there. So if you're Portland, yes, I would extend him just because what else are you gonna get? I mean, like there's no other options for Portland. Now, if you're Damian Lillard, I mean, I think he needs to start being criticized because these like second tier stars / superstars don't get criticized enough. And I think if you're Damian Lillard, he clearly doesn't want to win. I mean, it's obvious that he doesn't want to win or he wouldn't stay in Portland. And I get it. Like, there's something about being loyal to your team that's nice and all, but you got
he just wants to be the star of the team, I think, and he just wants to. I don't know what's going through his mind, but I think we're gonna see, or he's gonna be, the teammate that's good, and then he'll get frustrated when the rest of his team doesn't do good. It's because you have nobody else. I can't name anybody else on your team, and you're preventing that. So I mean, I think that's one thing. He is the star of the team. His ability to playoffs isn't that great, but like you said, he had the injury. But that's the thing though. Like, yeah, he's gonna make money, and then he's gonna have some wins and stuff. He's gonna have these high point games, but then you're gonna see him get frustrated because his team can't get over that hump and win the games, and it's because it's just him. And then he's gonna kind of be similar to Kawhi, putting the team on his back, and you got nobody else doing anything. So I mean that's what I see. I mean, but you're right. That's what they had to do is because that's what they have, and people were talking about it'll bring ticket sales. So we'll see.
Whatever sells tickets.
Damian Lillard, it's not LeBron James, but I mean, they extended Damian Lillard, and you know what? Let's buy some tickets. I don't know about that, but. I don't know. I would hate to be a Trailblazers fan.
Yeah, good thing we're not. I mean, time will tell, but I think once you put it in context, they had to pay him. So let's move on to the Bucks and Raptors. They're tied at 2 apiece. So yeah, I mean, I think the Raptors have what'd you say?
Yeah. In that game, the first game that they won overtime. That was a good game. Kawhi, he had a dunk. That was nice. It was a good that one. Since they, that home game, next one was, I believe, so back-to-back home game, back wins. I think that was their confidence. I think in that third game, if they didn't get that win, that kind of would have pushed them down. They might have been out game 4, or even if they won game 4, they're down quite a bit. So I think this boosts their morale and it helps them in the long run. Those 2 games, those are good. Those are good, especially that overtime game. I like that one.
Yeah.
What's your predictions now?
Predictions for the rest of the series? I'm still going with the Bucks. I think the Bucks are going to get it, and I think I said Game 7 to start. I'll stick with Game 7. I think they'll win Game 5, and then they'll lose Game 6, and then win at home at Game 7. What do you think?
I mean, you got a good point there, but I'm still liking the Raptors.
Okay.
I still think they'll pull it off. The next game is in Milwaukee, so we'll see about that. But one thing I want to point out is Kyle Lowry stepping up in the last game. He had 20 points. I'm pretty sure this is an entire low for Kawhi Leonard at 19 points for like the entire any playoff he's ever played. And this is up had some hot. I like it, and so that kind of prove. I don't know what the Bucks are if Kawhi points, like they might have. I didn't watch the game, but they might have stopped them from getting someone, and the rest of the team. But I mean that's a nice win, 18-point win for them. So that's real good. Boosts confidence.
Yeah,
I like
I
it. I
think
think win the entire series, but the next game might go to the Bucks just because it's there. But we'll have to see.
yeah, we're definitely gonna have to wait and see. I think. Yeah, I think the bench played really well for the Toronto last night. And the way they won last night should give them confidence going forward because it wasn't the Kawhi Leonard show. The bench stepped up and Kyle Lowry stepped up. It was definitely like everyone contributed. So that should give them confidence going forward since, it shows, hey, we can all play well in the series. They can play team basketball, and team basketball is definitely always better than just superstar basketball.
Yeah.
So I think, I mean, it's definitely shown that they figured Giannis out a little bit. They figured out how to defend him better. He hasn't played nearly as well as he did in game 1 and 2 and game 3 and 4. So I think if they can continue to guard Giannis like they are, the Raptors sure do have a chance. But here's an interesting question. Do these teams, because we've talked about how the Warriors are, they looking better without Kevin Durant. So let's put the scenarios up. So say Toronto wins in 7 games like you're predicting. Do you believe that they actually have a better chance against the Warriors if Kevin Durant plays or if he doesn't play? What do you think? What gives Toronto the best chance
we're
to
going back to the Kevin Durant thing. What gives anybody the best chance to win is if Kevin Durant's out, Steph Curry's out, and that's about it. I think maybe if Clay's can't do anything because nobody else is on the court, like Steph or KD, but I mean that's really the only thing I see is or if steps in, a jersey for the Raptors or something. But
Oh my
I mean,
gosh.
the thing is injuries, they can't play. A scandal. But I think that's really the only chance. I think it goes up against them right now at this point. The Bucks, Raptors. I mean, it's gonna be the Warriors.
Yeah. I don't know. I think it's an interesting question because, I think it depends on the team, kind of. So if the Raptors were to win, I think they would actually have a better chance without KD. Well, you know what? No, I changed my mind. I think the Raptors would actually have a better chance with KD in because they play slower. They have more because Kawhi Leonard is kind of an ISO player a lot of the time. So they play a little bit slower. They kind of play the style the Warriors would play if they had Kevin Durant. So I think they would match up better. But if it were the Bucks and Kevin Durant, I think they would have a better chance if Kevin Durant was out because I think they have better defense on the perimeter to be able to stop the cutting and the screens that the Warriors do without Kevin Durant. So I think the Bucks want KD to be out because they don't want to have to because it's really besides Giannis, no one can guard Kevin Durant. So I think the Bucks actually want him to be out for the series, and we'll see what happens. The Bucks definitely don't look as good as they did. So I don't know what actually gives them a chance in the finals. I'm kind of with you. There's not a whole lot of scenarios I can see like the Warriors losing. I think the only way they lose if and I don't want this to happen by any means. If Curry goes down, I think Curry's the only player. Like if Curry is down, I think that they do lose. But like you said, there's not a whole lot of scenarios that I can see the Warriors actually losing to either of these teams. But like we said last podcast, I want it to be a good series. I want to see the Bucks do good. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Or the Raptors. I think the Raptors and Bucks series is actually gonna be a good series now. But yeah, we'll see.
Yeah.
But anyway, let's move on to some of the NBA news. We have more Lakers news to go over, but I didn't want to go over this report, more Kevin Durant stuff. Kevin Durant, there's actually reports now, which I've never heard this before, that the Clippers are reportedly a possibility in free agency. And if the other reports, Kawhi Leonard is also reportedly going to the Clippers. So if Kawhi and KD teamed up in the Clippers, man, that could be championships to come. So, what do you think about that?
Yeah, that's nice. I think that's they need to talk to each other, and the Clippers as an organization need to work something out, talk to both of them, and say, advocating and say, hey, we're working on talking with Kawhi. Is this something you'd be willing to do? Is if we get Kawhi in there, that's for sure going to put them in playoff situations, and then they'll go to Kawhi and say the same thing. Hey, we're talking to KD. Is this going to be a good deal if we get both of y'all? And they're like, yeah, I'm sure they'll say yeah to both of them. I think that's put the Clippers over top, and it'd be interesting. Clippers versus Lakers, a year just to see how that's going to work out. So I think that'll be good if that's what they get. They just can't get one. They got to get two. So
they got to get both. Yeah, like you said, I think you agree with that. They got to get both to be in contention for a championship. Now, they'll definitely make the playoffs. I mean, with either one or the other, they'll make the playoffs. Go ahead.
It'll just be like the Raptors. Like if Kawhi's the only one to go there, it's basically just like the Raptors, but Canada versus US. I mean, that's the only difference.
Yeah, well,
literally, like I'm dead serious. Like, I mean, unless they get somebody else, but if they don't, same thing. Except maybe not playoffs or maybe barely playoffs. I don't know.
Yeah, especially since he'll be going from the East to West too. I mean, the West is a lot harder than the East. So I definitely do think they'll make the playoffs with Kawhi if he's the only one that goes to the Clippers. But if KD and Kawhi goes to the Clippers, then we're looking at championships and that will be interesting. That probably means if Kevin Durant goes to the Clippers and Kawhi goes to the Clippers, then the Western Conference Finals will more than likely be the Clippers versus the Warriors, and that will just be crazy interesting. And that's when Kevin Durant can enhance his legacy. That's when Kevin Durant can put himself over the top as a top 5 player of all time. If he goes in, because he leaves the Warriors, he was criticized, he was scrutinized for going to the Warriors in the first place. Probably the most criticized move ever, maybe besides LeBron's decision. So if he goes to the Clippers and he beats the Warriors to go to the finals, that's it. Like that, his legacy will be set if he does that. If he loses to the Warriors, then his legacy will always also be set as, hey, you just rode the Warriors' coattails to a couple finals appearances, and you still can't even beat the Warriors. So it'll definitely be interesting to see what happens there. I almost still want Kevin Durant in New York just to see if he can go to the finals with the Knicks. But, it'll definitely be interesting to see what happens for sure. Also, along with that, there's more Lakers stuff. So Magic Johnson went on First Take, as we all know, and I'll just run this down just real quickly for the viewers. Magic basically went on First Take, and they wanted to know what his backstabbing comments were towards. Like, was it towards more people than just Rob Pelinka or what? And Magic basically said, no, it's just Rob Pelinka, the GM, who backstabbed me. He backstabbed me by saying, hey, behind my back, he was saying, oh, Magic's not in the office, blah, blah, blah. And apparently before Magic signed as the president of operations for the Lakers, he told Jeannie, hey, listen, I have businesses that I'm going to attend to. I'm not going to be in the office every day yet, but still Rob Pelinka was saying these things behind his back. Magic said he was hearing those things from people who weren't even in the organization. He was hearing it from people outside the organization that Rob was saying these things. So basically Magic ruined Rob Pelinka's what do you call it? Not legacy. What am I looking for? He ruined his reputation. Reputation, although Rob Pelinka wasn't trusted to begin with by other people around the league. So Magic does this interview, basically trashes the Lakers, but at the same time he's saying, I want the Lakers to win championships, and he predicts that LeBron will bring a championship to LA. So like, like at one hand, he's like, completely trashing the organization, saying that Rob Pelinka is a backstabber. And the other hand, he's cheering for the Lakers. It was a very confusing situation. And I'm wondering, do you think the interview made Magic look better, or did it make him look worse? Like, in general, did it make Magic look better or worse?
The way I see it, I don't think it made him look better or worse. I think it's just him, telling us his point of view. But I don't think it made it, better or worse. But, I can kind of see where he's come from, where I wouldn't say he's trashing the Lakers. I think he's just trashing Rob Pelinka for what he's doing. And, they're talking about, head coach situations and stuff and all that. But, I think it's just him trashing Rob Pelinka and not the Lakers. And I truly believe he wants, them to win, of course. I think a lot of people want them to win. But I think it's just that he's trashing Rob Pelinka.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I can see that for sure. So my perspective on it is this. Magic Johnson has failed at everything but basketball. He's tried to be an analyst. He's tried to be a coach. He's tried to be a front office personnel. He's tried to be a late night host. He's failed at all those things. Obviously, his businesses has been successful, but outside of basketball, he's failed. And the way Magic talked about it, he said he would quit whenever he stopped having fun. And I see that as, okay, so you never really wanted to put in hard work. You never really wanted to go through what it takes to be a high-level president of operations, because it's not always fun. Sometimes you have to work 80 hours a week, and that's not fun. So in my opinion, Magic is obviously loved around the league. He's obviously one of the greatest guys in the NBA as far as being liked. But in my opinion, it hurt. It hurt Magic, just because it looked like, first of all, I don't necessarily think it's backstabbing if you're saying Magic's not in the office, because it's the truth. Like, Magic was never in the office. So, like, it's like kind of like backstabbing, but at the same time, it's like, well, Rob Pelinka was just telling the truth. Even though Magic said he wasn't going to be in the office, I think it still looked like, hey, Magic, you're kind of being a little sensitive, and I get it. Like that job is not an easy job, and I'm not in his shoes, so I don't really know what it was like. But to say that you're going to quit whenever you stopped having fun, I mean, give me a break. I mean, you can't just quit something whenever you stop having fun. I mean, Austin, you're going to work today. You're going to have fun at work today, and whenever you're not having fun, you're just going to quit. Exactly, that's my point. Like, you're not just going to quit whenever you're not having fun. You know what I mean? So I think it made him look worse in my eyes. But, of course, I didn't watch Magic Johnson play. I don't know Magic Johnson personally. And the media protects Magic Johnson with their life, man. Like, the media loves Magic Johnson. So I'm not really getting a good view of, like what Magic really is, which is kind of like, he's not really a hard worker. He's kind of just like, he just wanted to ride the coattails of the Lakers. Hopefully LeBron wins a championship so he can take credit for it. So in my eyes, it actually hurt Magic. And I also think it was very hypocritical for him to trash Rob Pelinka. And yes, I agree with your point partially that it was mostly trashing Rob Pelinka, and he was kind of lifting up the Lakers. But Rob Pelinka is who's going to sign these free agents in the summer. Rob Pelinka is the guy who's going to try to convince free agents to come play for the Lakers. So it kind of like he was trashing the Lakers. I mean, it definitely hurt the Lakers in the long run. So I think it's very hypocritical of him to say, "Hey, go Lakers," and in the same term, to say, "Hey, screw you, Lakers," and screw Rob Pelinka over. So I don't know. That's kind of how I see it. How do you see it?
But see, I think with if Magic didn't leave, and there was all this drama, I think people would have came there because of Magic and stuff, just because he's a well-liked person. I think that's one thing. Also, I mean, if he wasn't in the office enough, give him a call. What do you need? You've got his phone number. That's what I think about it. Like, stop saying, oh, it seems like everybody's going around. Oh, where's Magic? Where's Magic? He's not in office. He's not in office. I feel like that's basically what everybody's saying. But I mean, like, if you needed him, give him a call. I guarantee he would have answered. Like, what's the deal? Like, you think he's just supposed to be sitting at a desk doing paperwork all day? No. So I mean, seriously, everybody's got phones now. So I mean, give him a call. He can work outside of an office. I mean, what's he really do? He's just like a hot man of the Lakers, right? So, I mean, seriously.
Well,
That's my
as
take
a
on it.
president, you're supposed to be more than that. You're supposed to be more than a hype man of the Lakers. You're supposed to be the president of operations. You're supposed to be going out, scouting guys, talking to free agents, stuff like that. And I kind of see where you're coming from though. It's like, especially since Magic already told Jeannie Buss that he wasn't going to be in the office all the time. But you make a good point about hype man. I think I want to get your take on this because a lot of people think Magic Johnson would be a lot better in an owner role because he's a partial owner of the Dodgers, and maybe one day he'll be a partial owner of the Lakers. But he really is a hype man. He's a great face for your franchise, but he's not a grinder. He's not and a good president is a grinder, a guy who works 70 hours a week,
Yeah.
who's in the office, who's looking at film, all these things. You can't really just be the face of a franchise and be a president. You need to be more than that. So I think, but honestly, as far as the blame comes down, I think it ultimately falls on Jeannie Buss, the owner. I think she's gotten a pass, but she doesn't need a pass anymore. The power structure for the Lakers is all screwed up. I still completely disagree with how she treated Magic Johnson because of the fact that he was going to fire Luke Walton, and then she said he couldn't fire Luke Walton. Like,
Yeah.
give me a break. That's ridiculous. He's the president. Let him do his job. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I didn't agree with that at all.
It's just Lakers drama. I feel like that's what we'll start seeing until they start signing players. And hopefully, when they start signing players, all that drama will go away and there will be no drama. But it's the Lakers. They gotta do something. This is on and off court stuff.
Yeah.
Behind the curtain type stuff. I mean, they just need to get their franchise together. It's ridiculous. It shouldn't be like this. You got LeBron. Like, come on now. Like, if something, if this isn't fixed, LeBron's not going to stay there.
No, he's not. Yeah, and you talk about players coming though, but don't you think all the drama hurts free agents coming? I mean, don't you think that all the drama will prevent some guys signing? Because I think so.
Sure. Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I think so too. I think, free agents will see what's going on. They'll see how, hey, look, Jeannie Buss is, making all these funky decisions and they ran Magic out of town. And if I see that as a free agent like Kawhi Leonard, I don't want to be a part of that. I want to go to a well-ran organization like the Clippers and, have a chance to win a championship over there because the Lakers roster obviously isn't anything to behold. I mean, they have LeBron James, and that's pretty much it. So there's really no reason as a free agent to say, hey, this is a destination I really care about going to, except for the fact that you're going to be in the biggest brand in the NBA, which is the Lakers. Yeah, so I mean, ultimately, I think as far as where the blame falls, who's going to have the blame for the falling out, I think ultimately it comes down to Jeannie Buss, just simply for the fact, like I told you earlier, the fact that she didn't let Magic do his job. But I think some of the blame needs to fall on Rob Pelinka for the fact that he, like you said, he didn't reach out to Magic. He didn't reach out to Magic and say, hey, you're not in the office enough. We need you here. And partly it's Magic because Magic basically admitted that he doesn't want to be a hard worker. And then he trashes, the organization. So I think there's plenty of blame to go around for the dysfunction. And I don't know if you saw this, but during the press conference for the Frank Vogel hire, the coach, LeBron was at the press conference, but he didn't say anything. And now LeBron's leadership is being put into question. So I mean, there's a lot of problems going on with the Lakers right now.
Yeah, we'll just have to follow this, see where it goes, see what they do.
Yeah, no doubt.
All right, what we got next? What we got next?
Do you want to continue with the NFL?
Yeah. If there's no more NBA.
Yep, no more NBA. So we're moving into NFL. There's not a whole lot of news, but there's definitely some interesting things to talk about. While we were doing our podcast last time, go check it out if you haven't watched it yet. Peyton Manning was being discussed as the new Jets GM. And I think it's interesting. And I was wondering if he would make a good GM. And I would say this, Peyton Manning's clearly a smart guy. And I think he would make a lot better coach than a general manager because he knows the game so well. He sees the game so well. I don't necessarily know if Peyton can evaluate talent. GM's a lot different than knowing the game. Like you have to understand the traits that make a great player. You have to understand how to watch film, which Peyton knows how to watch film, but you're watching film from a different perspective as a player. You're watching film from a perspective of looking at formations and reading defenses, but instead you'll be watching film for, okay, what does this guy do on tape that translate to the next level? And I think that's a whole different ball game. So do you think Peyton would make a good GM?
So I think whatever Peyton does, I think whatever it is, he's going to be good at whatever he does. But, to the point where maybe he wants to, or he can do something better than the other, like a coach or something like that. Like there's talks before about he'll coming to UT to be a coach and stuff, and then he's talking about how he didn't want people to hate him and stuff like that. Yeah, he'd be good. Sometimes he goes there and he talks with the quarterbacks. He's got quarterback camp and stuff like that. But I think he'll be good at whatever he does, but not necessarily a GM position at this point. Maybe later on in his career. Yeah. But right now, I think, if he does anything, it needs to be, something on the smaller scale, either, some type of coach, quarterback coach, even if it's just not, an actual role, if it's just, helping a team out or something like that, if he could, or if that's possible, I don't know, with some regulations or something, if he can't do that, but whatever he does, he's going to be good, but I think he needs to start off smaller before he gets up there. And personally, I wouldn't really want to be a part of the Jets. So I don't know where the story would come from. I doubt he paid that any attention. He probably sent out on his and was like, well, I haven't been contacted. So.
That's exactly right. He has a connection with the coach, Adam Gase, so that's the only reason why that he was connected to the job. And I agree with you, man. There's no reason to go deal with the Jets' dysfunction. Like that would be a mistake on Peyton's part because he might fail. So let's say he gets hired as a Jets GM. He might fail as the Jets GM, but it wasn't his fault. It could have been ownership's fault. Like the Jets are that bad. Wow. So I think you're right, though. I think Peyton needs to start on a smaller role and work his way up just because that's the natural progression in the NFL, and I think Peyton needs to do that too. But I really like your first point, which is Peyton's going to be good at whatever he does because he's such a hard worker, man. Like the reason he was such a good quarterback is because he was such a hard worker. So I do agree with that. I think he will have success no matter what he does, and he's willing to put in the work. But as of right now, you're Peyton Manning. You have all these endorsements. You're doing all these things, for your community. You have this thing going on with ESPN Plus detail. Why would you want to come be a GM for the Jets? Like, why would you want to do that? Like, there's no reason to do that. You have plenty of money. He's probably enjoying watching his kids grow up. I think if you're Peyton Manning, there's like zero reason to do that whatsoever. I think you're right. No, like that's not going to happen, obviously. And, there's no reason for Payne to even want to go do that. So our next topic is Big Ben says he lacked leadership in 2018. And And I think that's interesting because he just comes out and he basically apologizes for the Antonio Brown stuff. He says, I lack leadership in 2018. And I'm just thinking, like, I read that headline and I read the story and I was like, okay, you're 37 years old and you're lacking leadership. And I'm like, something doesn't add up. And, Dakota, it would have been cool to have him on because he talks all the time about how the Steelers had Le'Veon Bell and Antonio Brown and they still couldn't get the job done. And it makes you wonder, how often was Big Ben lacking leadership in his career? And if he was a better leader, could he have won more Super Bowls? I don't think a 37-year-old quarterback should lack leadership. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Sure.
it just didn't really add up to me. So in my opinion, this, like, Big Ben admitting that kind of tells me, hey, you screwed up, because if you did have more leadership, like you said you needed, maybe Antonio Brown and Le'Veon Bell could have worked out and maybe they could be on the team still. Maybe y'all could have won a championship. But instead, they're both gone and the Steelers are, might not even win the division.
I got no comment on that, man. I mean, it's good that he admitted that, but I mean, I think we all kind of knew it. I mean, but you're exactly right. I mean, maybe if he did have better leadership skills, or if he was actually acting as a leader, maybe they would have stayed there. I think with all the drama with the Steelers, he's just kind of in the background, just not even worrying about it. I think to himself, he's probably like, it'll work itself out. They'll realize, blah, blah, blah. Now it's just Juju Smith-Schuster show. That's basically it. That's what I think of when I think of Steelers. I don't even think of Big Ben anymore. But I mean, he does need to step up as a leader, and with all the young talent coming there, and that they need to get more people. But I think he can be a good leader. He just has to show that.
Yeah, I don't know about your first. Like, I don't know if we knew it because I think some people expected it, and I think like I expected it a little bit, and obviously you expected it. But when I saw the Steelers drama, I mostly was thinking of Antonio Brown as the problem or Le'Veon Bell as the problem. I wasn't thinking as much as Big Ben as the problem, since Big Ben has done it before. He's obviously been a leader on a team before. So I don't know. It's interesting for him to say that because, it confirms that, Antonio wasn't all the problem and Le'Veon wasn't all the problem. Some of it was Big Ben. So, yeah.
Still don't think it's like a problem. I think, yeah, he should have, been a better leader. But I think even if he was a better leader, the problems with Antonio Brown and Le'Veon Bell would have, still happened. Might have went a different direction than what it did, but I think it's good that he kind of admitted that, get that out there. But even if he was a little bit better leader, I still think would have already happened anyway.
Yeah. I agree with you there, just because Antonio Brown was a diva. So, I don't know if you saw this, but Zeke got in some more trouble off the field. He actually got handcuffed at some kind of function. Yep. I guess it was a party or something. And I'm just thinking, so the Cowboys are trying to make him one of the highest paid running backs in the NFL. And I'm sitting here thinking, I don't even think he's worth it without the off-the-field problems. With the off-the-field problems, I'm just thinking, no, Ezekiel Elliott is not worth this contract because of the fact that he doesn't even really give you a second dimension in your offense as far as running back's concerned. He is good in between the tackle runner, and that's pretty much it. He doesn't give you anything outside the backfield. Like he's not a great outside the backfield, set him up in the slot receiver. Like he doesn't catch the ball out of the backfield. So I'm thinking I would not pay Ezekiel Elliott if I was the Cowboys, just for the simple fact that he's gone off so much trouble off the field. He has the domestic violence stuff. He has the getting handcuffed. He pulled that girl's shirt down at the party or whatever. He done all these things, and I'm just thinking, and you guys want to pay him all this money, and he's not even that valuable on your team. I mean, he doesn't even give you, another dimension in the offense. Like, he's not a receiving back. So, if I'm the Cowboys, I'm not paying Ezekiel Elliott.
Yeah, you're forgetting that they're the Cowboys and they're gonna pay Ezekiel Elliott. They don't care what he does.
I didn't say will they. I said should they.
They don't. They don't. But what Prescott does. What's his face? The coach. I mean, he's still
Jason Garrett
4 years ago. They keep
still there.
There. Should they sign him? No. Will they? Yes. But I mean, that's something they gotta evaluate. I think that's what other teams are evaluating anyway. They're seeing that and they're just like, well, you know what? I wouldn't want him on my team. Yeah, you can go have fun off the field and in the season, but like it's kind of easy to keep out of handcuffs. It's not that hard. So I mean, it's just kind of ridiculous. Like, stop being in a spotlight for dumb moves.
All right, so I agree with you there. If the question was, will they pay him? Yes, of course they're gonna pay him. It's the Cowboys. They'll make the wrong decision. Should they pay him? No, I don't think they should. So the other big news in the NFL, like I said, there's not much. Gerald McCoy was cut from the Bucs, and then right afterwards they signed Ndamukong Suh. I disagree with the move. I think Gerald McCoy is better than Ndamukong Suh, but this is interesting because Gerald McCoy might be signed by the Browns, the Cleveland Browns. And I'm thinking, I don't know if you remember this, back in like 2010, maybe 2011, the Philadelphia Eagles signed all these big-name free agents. They got all these big-name players, and people called it the Dream Team. They're a dream team. They're shoo-in for a Super Bowl. They're going to be fantastic because they have all these big-name guys. And they didn't make the playoffs. and I'm sitting back wondering, well, the Browns, they have all these great players. Like, they get Odell Beckham Jr., they get Olivier Vernon. They obviously, if they get Gerald McCoy, that's all just another piece. And then they obviously have Baker and Jarvis and all these other guys. Kareem's going to come soon after the 8-game suspension. And I'm wondering, could this be another Eagles dream team scenario? They have all these big name guys, and a lot of them have personalities. So if they sign Gerald McCoy, that's just another personality to deal with in the locker room. Will they fail like the Eagles failed?
They could, but it's not going to happen. This is a different team. They're going to get to the playoffs. If it depends, every other team has to step up bigger than what they're going to step up. I don't think nobody can do that. I think they're going to, turn it around a lot. They're going to be in playoffs unless something drastically happens. Not being those Eagles.
I mostly agree with you. I think the biggest difference on this team is that I believe in Baker Mayfield more than Michael Vick. Michael Vick was the quarterback back on those other teams. As long as, like I said last podcast, man, as long as they get the scheme right on the defense and they don't try to play zone coverage when you have man corners, because the defense coordinator is a zone kind of guy, but he needs to play man coverage because he has man corners. So I think if they play man coverage, they fit the right scheme, I think they'll be fine. I think the Browns are going to be good. They do have a tough division, but like you said, I think they're making the playoffs for sure, unlike that Eagles squad. So, yeah, that's it, man. That's all we got.
That's it. Forever.
Forever.
On this pod.
Our last podcast ever. Our last podcast ever. Yeah, that's it.
Nah, it ain't. All right, well, that's good. I guess I won't be available for the next 2 weeks, so you might.
Let's tell them why.
Dakota or somebody else.
Yeah, tell the people why. Where's Austin gonna be?
Because you the ones that watch.
Wait, what?
But because you and me are the only ones that watch this. not married, so I'm going to Dominican Republic. So I won't be on here. So, but anyway, that was good. That was good. We'll try to do another one. We'll see how the finals go. Warriors game 4.
We'll see, man.
Prediction, but all right. See you later.
All right, later, dude.